Call the meeting to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I invite you to join us. Roll call.
Garrick?
Here.
Pepcorn? Preston? Here. Strand?
Here.
Mahoney?
Here. Well, you can see this award here on the top of the podium. The bid team gave us an award for Broadway Square. They wanted to thank the commission for supporting Broadway Square and Block 9 development. And Broadway Square has turned out to be quite an event center for a lot of the public, and it's turned out very well. Number two, the inspection department code adoption process will soon be completed with the effective date of codes of the first part of 2022. The department has also added a code enforcement inspector to its team, and that new person will start employment with the city in late November and early December to help with this new code adoption. Now, November is the National Model Railroad Month, and the Red River Modules Model Railroad Club will be at the main library to display and demonstrate model trains on November 20th and 21st. All ages are welcome and no pre-registration is required. The library offers readers advisory services for kids, teens, and adults. Kids and their caregivers can request reading recommendations through What's Next, a personalized reading recommendation for kids service. Adults and teens can request reading recommendations through Maybe Suggest service. The children's librarians also handle curriculum requests by teachers or caregivers with What's Next service. Planning. The apartment vacancy rate in June of 2021 and June in Fargo decreased to 4.4%, down from 6.6% in 2020, 8.45% in 2019, and 8.96% in 2018. The vacancy rate downtown is 11% and it is 7% in North Fargo. There are currently 1,091 apartment units under construction, including 656 in Southwest Fargo and 432 downtown. Beyond Shelter has received funding from North Dakota Housing Finance Agency for its proposed The Plaza Phase 1 and Phase 2 affordable senior housing projects, which will provide 88 affordable senior homes in the Kmart site on South University Drive. Beyond Shelter thanked the City of Fargo for the pilot approved by the City Commission for the projects, which is a key role in the successful funding awards. The Fargo Police Department celebrated the promotions of 4 lieutenants and 5 sergeants earlier today. We congratulate Lieutenants Shane, Mike B., Mike S., and Matt, and Sergeants Travis, Alden, Jennifer, Lucas, and Mike A. There'll be a picture on the screen at some point. The Fargo Police Department is now accepting applications for the 2022 Fargo Police Academy through December 6th. The Academy provides an exceptional opportunity for those interested in career in law enforcement to receive state-of-the-art training at no cost to the recruit. It also provides the police department with an advantage of immersing potential recruits in the culture and philosophy of the department prior to ending the field training program. The CompsGA team has produced an impactful recruitment video for the Fargo Police Department to promote the new academy, and we will show that now. Very good. Is there a motion to approve the order of agenda delaying action on item number 44A for 2 weeks?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the November 1st, 2021 regular meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items through 1 through 34?
So move.
So moved. Who's second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Garrick and Preston. Roll call vote, please.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Aye. The regular agenda, we have resident comments at this time. Steve Olson is first up, 2.5 minutes.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. My name is Steve Olson. I'm a massage therapist, retired. I've been retired for about 5 years. I spent 31 years working with my hands and helping people. I'm going to talk a little bit about massage therapy tonight. North Dakota was the 10th state to regulate massage therapy. This happened in 1959 with the Massage Registration Act. At that time, we were regulated by registration, and our title was masseur and masseuse, a little different than today. Today, we are a licensed profession, the highest level of state regulation, and we have title protection for the title massage therapist. The licensing board has been in existence for 62 years and has done a terrific job. They have lots of things that they deal with, but they're they're a volunteer board, and they're carrying out the law based on the legislation that's been passed. They also serve the governor because he appoints the board of directors or the board people. This ordinance, number 44, which did I just hear correctly, it's been postponed, the presentation?
We are going to listen on it, but we're going to take no formal action tonight.
My hearing aids are not working, Mayor.
We will not take no action on it tonight. Legal has recommended we wait 2 weeks to take action on it, but that's why we're listening to things tonight about it.
So it'll be presented tonight?
It'll be presented, but no action taken, Steve.
Yeah, okay. Well, my time is almost up. But this massage profession is great, and I've been supporting it for my entire career. And so I'm going to keep speaking against this ordinance. And I'd like a soccer match where an official gives a red card to have a player dismissed. I'd like to give a red card to this ordinance, and I want it to be defeated. Thank you.
Brandon Krieger?
Hello, City Commission, Mr. Mayor. So I'm kind of going off more informal this time. So 2 things I talk about: the Urban Honey Initiative, which will be coming up today and this evening, I believe. No, obviously it was big news this weekend. The chief let out a report that, and the newspapers reported on it about harvest rates are low, has increased the public safety threat, and the hunt is time consuming for officers who manage it. I don't hunt. I'm never going to be a hunter. It's not my MO. But one thing I will say is from a family perspective, about a month ago, me and my family went walking down by Forestry Park in the forest path, and we saw 2 or 3 deer there grazing on the side of the path. And my kids know they experienced them with an awe because they've never seen a deer other than being hit on the highway. So when you're taking that into consideration, one perspective that hasn't been seen is that with this initiative, what do our kids can experience rather than them if I ask, why are these people carrying around, start carrying on bows or to go hunt these animals? Oh, well, they're hunting the deer. Well, that'd be kind of crushing for them. So as an experience-wise, I think that's good for our society or our city to not have that anymore. Next thing I do want to talk about will be the Police Advisory and Oversight Board. Last week was, or last 2 weeks ago, was presented with the trust and transparency, increased communication, and 21st century policing. I learned that in my criminal justice classes that communication is key between community and the public service or public people who are leading the city. And last week, Deputy Mayor Pepcorn mentioned a couple of quotes I just wanted to bring up. How I feel as a redundancy, and we are the oversight board. This gives a chance for people to come together to organize and to bring their issues, along with talking to the police, to you guys that's more efficient. And I think that the idea that this would be I'm glad it did pass. But moving forward here, I feel there's an attempt to silence the community members' votes. All right, thank you. Or voices, thank you.
Ronnie Gilmore. Ronnie Gilmore. Christopher Cohn.
Yeah, I'm Christopher Cohn, I'm a Fargo resident, and this is regarding the wildlife management program. And I'd like to thank the city and the Park District for the work that's been done to develop the river and nature areas by adding trails and making them accessible to more people. This fall, I spent a lot of time in several of the parks, including the Orchard Glen Park and the River Forest Park, which were in very heavy use. But in addition to that, I also visited Lemke Conservatory Park, and there I found 3 children who were by themselves fishing. And what I realized is that at that age, I would also venture out into the woods to explore. And what we don't really want to have is children in the understory walking through the woods when we have active archery season going on. Fargo is getting a reputation for having wonderful river trails, and we should continue to build on that. And finally, I have some additional signatures for the petition to stop the use of deadly weapons in the parks when people are using the parks. Who should I hand them into?
You can give them to Diana at the end. Richard Thomas.
Mayor, Commissioners, good afternoon. I'm Richard Thomas, Fargo resident since 1957. I'm here on behalf of myself and several hundred signers of petitions that I've already turned in. Thank you for this opportunity to speak about park safety and park users feeling safe and welcome while using Fargo's river and nature parks. Fargo being a river city, it has a grand tradition going back over a century of people enjoying nature and the parks along the river. About 15 years ago, a hunting program was started in some of Fargo's undeveloped nature areas along the river as an experiment to reduce the deer population. The program has proved to be largely ineffective. When the program was created, there was much less usage of the nature parks. Things have changed in the years since. Fargo Parks is to be commended for the wonderful job they've done improving the nature parks with parking lots and miles of trails. The nature parks are now being used by thousands of people. They are used year-round from dawn to dusk for walking, jogging, dog walking, biking, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. People go off the trails to explore and enjoy nature. This wasn't the case when the wildlife management program was created. I spent several days talking to people in the nature parks and collected hundreds of signatures from park goers who wanted to end the hunting in occupied parks because they are concerned for their own safety and the safety of their children. Many of the signers were hunters. Some said that they were bow hunters who just did not feel that this was a safe program. At an archery range, no arrows are allowed to be discharged if anyone is downrange. Hunting in occupied parks puts all park goers downrange. When people enter the nature parks, they see signs posted that say to enter at their own risk. Some people would put the kids back in the car, others would just leave the area altogether. Fargo and Fargo Parks do a wonderful job of providing enjoyment for all who come to Fargo. The nature parks are the bedrock of the park system and provide enjoyment of nature for thousands at an economical cost. We believe the nature parks should continue to be developed with more trails and easier access so the tradition of enjoying nature along the river can continue and expand. The hunting program needs to be ended, and the enter at your own risk signs need to be taken down so all park goers can feel safe and welcome in Fargo's River and Nature Park. So we ask you to make Fargo's nature parks more welcoming, and please take down these signs. Thank you.
Keith Coates.
Good evening to the mayor and the commission. My name is Keith Coates. I've been a massage therapist for 5 years, and I've lived in the city of Fargo my entire life. I make those two distinctions because I support the ordinance as a massage therapist, because I believe as our profession is growing, there is a serious black mark on our industry that can be solved with this ordinance that is on the table. And I also support this as a citizen of Fargo as well, because I feel as our community is growing, it's important to know that there may be others that would try to take advantage of the growth and wealth coming into our city. That includes ones that would engage in nefarious acts. And unfortunately, with massage therapy, it doesn't matter. I could stand up here and say, I believe there's human trafficking in massage. It doesn't matter if somebody like Steve Olson can say there isn't human trafficking in massage. There's one true fact, and that is on the Board of Massage's website. It says, clear as day, that the board does not inspect massage establishments, only licensed massage therapists. That means anybody in this room could open up their own massage establishment and say they're a massage therapist. There is a huge gap, and whether you believe there's not human trafficking or if there is human trafficking in massage, the fact of the matter is that somebody along the way can take advantage of that. What worries me if this ordinance does not pass is that it's a lot easier to deal with a problem like this in the bud, have an ordinance in place that can stop the possibility of that possible human trafficking to further establish more in Fargo. But if we don't pass an ordinance like this, and there's still that huge hole of opportunity for somebody to take over, that means maybe 30 years from now, if this problem becomes more and more, it'll be a lot harder to try to reverse that. I feel there's a way that we can work smarter, not harder. And I feel like this ordinance is a perfect example of that. It's cost effective, it's a huge community approach, and I believe you can do some good. Thank you.
Did Ronnie Gilmore show up? No, okay. We'll go to our public opportunity, Meadowview Edition, 1402 to 1493, 66th Avenue South. Is approval recommended by Planning Commission on 6/3/21, continued to 11/1/21 regular meeting. It's a zoning change from a single dwelling residential and public institutional to a single dwelling residential and public institutional. This is the first reading of the rezoning ordinance, and it's a plot of the Meadowview Edition. Donald Crust to explain.
Good evening, Commissioners. Donald Kress of the Department of Planning and Development. This item includes an ordinance prepared by the City Attorney's Office, which is included in your packet. The Meadowview Edition, which is outlined in black here, is essentially the east half of the Bison Meadows second subdivision. This is located on University Drive South and 70th Avenue South. For reference, this is Davies High School over here. As you see in this aerial photograph, development has begun on the west half. That's not part of the subdivision, but just as an update to that aerial photograph, we see that the west half is actually already developed up to 15th Street South. Pretty much, there are still some vacant lots and some under construction, but this photo doesn't show that. So this is really pretty much all built out here. So this is not developed at all. Here's the site earlier this summer, again an undeveloped lot, and it looked pretty much the same this morning with snow on it. The zoning here is the residential lots are zoned SR4, single dwelling residential, and the Fargo Park District lot, which is shown here, is zoned PI, public institutional. As you read this, you see it's a zone change from SR4 and PI to SR4 and PI. What that means is that what's happening here is the existing lots are getting replatted, and so their lot lines move a little bit. And so we do the rezoning just to make sure that things are properly zoned, that there's not a leftover piece of PI in the SR4. It's a procedural thing, so the zoning is remaining the same. The plat in a couple pages here, again, replats the existing lots as indicated. That's the page 2. I put them in one picture here for you. What happens here is that there are overall fewer lots as indicated. There's some charts in your staff report that indicate there are overall fewer lots. The lots are generally larger, but there are some smaller ones that still remain here. And another change is that 69th Avenue South is straightened to, or 69th Street South is connected to 70th Avenue here. In the current location, it curves around here, it connects straight through. And then there's also included in this a vacation and rededication of streets. Again, that's a procedural thing just to make sure as we change these lot lines that there aren't little pieces of right-of-way hanging around where they're not supposed to be there. The applicant apparently is not with us this evening. Jim Bullis and John Eunice of the Eagle Ridge Development. The Planning Commission's recommendation is stated in your staff report and shown on the screen. That concludes staff's presentation. Thank you, Commissioners.
Is there anyone present who wishes to speak to this zoning? Is there anyone present who wishes to speak?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Tim Nasham. I live adjacent to this neighborhood. First of all, I would like to say that I'm here in support of these changes. And I'm here to take the opportunity to do a look back and see how this development turned out. Brief history of this plat was 4 years ago. The Bison Meadow development started out. It was a 130 lot neighborhood. There was 2 big ponds in the middle for drainage. There were walking paths that went through the neighborhood. Lots of character in the neighborhood, winding streets, green space, walkability. So what happened was a developer came in, removed all the ponds, removed the walking paths that went through the neighborhood, shrunk the green space, put in almost 400 of these smaller lots, and they had several reasons why they wanted to do it. And despite the neighborhood having a petition signed in protest of this commission approved it, minus Commissioner Preston, because she wasn't here at the time. So now that 4 years have gone by, we can look back and see how this development turned out. I'm going to point out a few things. One of the things that was really pushed was it was said that there is a very high need for these small lots, and this development represented 1.5 to 2 years of demand. So now it's 4 years later, and of the original lots that were platted, you can see them up there, not even 50% of them have homes on them. And that goes to show that this type of development does not have a high demand. In this second half, if we project those numbers out, it's going to take another 5 or 6 years to fill that up. And probably even more now that Bennett Elementary School is full and the school district is changing the boundary lines, and without any kind of solution to fix the problem with overcrowding the schools. One of the changes that was presented was that the ponds were removed, streets were straightened, green space was shrunk, and all this was going to decrease the special assessments to make these lots more affordable to homeowners. So at the end of 2017, when the infrastructure was completed, I compared specials to these lots, to the neighboring lots in Eagle Point, and to the neighboring lots in Crofton Coves. Those neighborhoods have ponds, green space, winding streets, lots of character. So when I compared the specials, the lots in Bison Meadows, specials were $602 per front foot. Crofton Coves, $553 per front foot. And Eagle Point had specials of $479 per front foot. So by removing all of these things, taking out all of the character in order to decrease the specials increased. And you can do a comparison on square footage of the lots, and the numbers come out the same. The last thing that was brought up was the ponds were removed out of the middle of the plat, and the drainage was all pushed to a city-owned borrow pit park to the north, and this was going to help put more houses in. So I did some research on how that turned out, and I went online and I found some Google reviews, and I found several Google reviews that speak about the drainage in this neighborhood, and I'm just going to read one of them for you here. This is from a young lady named Courtney. She says, "Do not build in Bison Meadows. It is a complete disaster with drainage issues that they are not willing to fix. Several individuals are not happy out here, and we wish we would have never moved here." Next line, "Here we are a month later, nothing fixed." Goes on to say, "I'm back a year later and our issues are still not fixed." So here you have a young lady makes the best and biggest investment of her life, a brand new house and in a brand new neighborhood, and she says, "We wish we would have never moved here." So to the engineering department, planning commission, city auditor, this commission, this is your review. You did this. So I support these changes because I think it's a move in the right direction with these bigger lots. And I hope we can all learn a lesson after seeing how these developments turn out. Thank you.
If not, we'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion? Preston moves to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Garrick gets a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Preston,
Aye.
Garrick,
Yes.
Pepcorn,
Aye.
Strand,
Yes.
Mahoney.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioners.
COVID-19 update, explanation by Desi Fleming.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Since the beginning of September, our fourth COVID wave has remained at kind of a high plateauing phase. There's a little bit of concern with that going into wintertime and everyone being indoors. Cass County currently has 740 active cases with 50 new cases that were reported today, and that again shows the low testing that happens here over the weekends on Saturdays and Sundays. The state has a little over 3,000 cases. No deaths were reported today in Cass, but there was a total of 6 deaths last week, so we have a total of 252 deaths now in Cass County. Both deaths and hospitalizations have remained in a high plateau phase as well, which continues to challenge healthcare systems across the state. There are 163 individuals hospitalized statewide, and 16 of those are in ICU. Cass County remains in the high transmission category per the CDC metrics. There's been a 1.55 increase in positivity over the past 7 days. We're at a 9.94 average for that, along with a small increase in testing numbers and then a decrease in new hospitalizations. The age category with the most active cases continues to be the 30 to 39-year-olds, followed by the 0 to 11-year-olds. Vaccine efforts have now started for the 5 to 11-year-olds. And that data has not been added to the state website yet if you're looking for it. So realistically, by the middle of January, everyone 5 and older should have the opportunity to be fully vaccinated, which will be great. Initial vaccination rates in the county are still increasing slightly. Booster doses are also increasing, and an important component for those who have waning immunity. And there's also now documented benefits to decreasing transmission rates with booster doses as well. The main criteria for booster doses in North Dakota are very loose. So basically 2 things: if you're over 18, or if it's been 6 months since your Pfizer or Moderna series, and if it's been 2 months from your Johnson & Johnson vaccine, and you would like a booster dose, please seek those out. As a reminder, there are 71 providers in Cass County that provide vaccines, so vaccine is readily available. I recognize that most people are psychologically done with this pandemic. For example, if you look at where we were last year during this time, and we were looking to when we should end the citywide mask mandate, And one of our criteria for that was that we stayed below a 3% positivity rate. And so here we sit now with this current wave, and we're at a 7 to 14% positivity rate, and no one's willing to do much of anything. So we know the virus is slowly becoming endemic, and we will have to make decisions regarding what risks we are willing to take. We also know that we have a highly effective tool in vaccination for everyone 5 and older. With booster doses readily available, there's also now a good supply of monoclonal antibodies. We're having new oral antiviral medications that should be available by the end of this year that are very promising in preventing hospitalizations. There's also many testing opportunities in the community to allow for early testing. The benefit of early testing is that with the monoclonal antibodies and the antivirals, it's best to give those very quickly after diagnosis. So we want to know when people are positive so they can have the appropriate treatments. All of these factors will be helpful, but from a prevention standpoint, vaccination is the best option, and it's available now. So please get your COVID vaccines and a booster dose if you're over 18. And for vaccine availability, if you need, it is vaccinefinder.org. Vaccination has greatly decreased the human impacts of this virus. Thanks.
Desi, I want to thank your testing staff because I drove past there one day and it was packed on a Monday morning. But in addition to that, the Canadians, if they come down, have to be retested 3 days before they go back. So I'm sure your staff is working very hard on that. I get a bunch of emails about that. So I do want to thank your team for working so vigilant on the testing and offering the vaccine as well. Any discussion, questions of Desi? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Introduction of the new emergency manager, Steve Dirksen, to introduce us.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. It's great to be in front of you tonight to introduce our new emergency manager, Brady Scribner. Brady comes to us from Essentia Hospital, where he worked for the last 5 years as an emergency manager and security officer, I believe. And Brady is a retooled employee with the city of Fargo. He worked for us for about 15 years prior to that in the health department. We did a nationwide search looking for an emergency manager. We had about 28 applications, and we ended up with 6 people that we interviewed out of this, and Brady rose to the top. Members of the interview panel were Mike Redlinger, Desi Fleming, Ben Dow, Brenda Derrig, Chief Zabalski, and then Travis Stefanowitz filled in when he couldn't make it one day, and then also Jim Prochniak, our county emergency manager. So we had a great team that spent a lot of time in discussion with these candidates, and tonight I'd like to just introduce you to Brady.
Thank you, Chief.
Any commissioners have any questions of Brady? Mr. Preston.
I don't have a question of Brady, but for the chief, would it be possible to send the job description? I'm not certain I fully understand what this position does.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that you get it here by the end of tonight.
Okay, thanks.
Do you want to explain it a little bit to the public, Steve?
Sure.
It's a broad position.
Absolutely. Yeah. The emergency manager does a lot of functions within the city of Fargo, and they oversee the emergency planning for the city of Fargo, developing and working with all the various departments on the emergency operations plan, working with continuity of operations plans for all the city departments as well. They are the emergency operations center manager in the time of a crisis, so not necessarily part of working the incident, but making sure all of us that are working in the EOC have what we need, make sure that that's up and running. They're the key conduit with the state when we're talking with the North Dakota Department of Emergency Services. He is that contact person with them, bringing back the information, the rules that we need to follow, following all the documentation that needs to be done for FEMA after action, making sure that we have all of our training. I could go on and on and on. There's a lot of things, but basically in charge of making sure we have plans in place should a disaster strike, that we can respond to that in a quick manner, and then exercising those plans, finding what our gaps are, exercising that, and then developing that we have the resources available, and finding what new ones we might need.
Is this a new role, or it's been here for a while?
No, this role has been with the city of Fargo since the early 2000s. The emergency manager role within the city Came out after 9/11. There was a lot of retooling, and we retooled it used to be the Civil Defense Department with the county, and then when they retooled things in emergency services back in the early 2000s, and there was money available, and the city of Fargo and Cass County actually share what's called HMEP money, or EMPG money. Sorry, there's too many acronyms with federal side of things, but and then we share that money, and we use half the money to fund Brady's salary and half the money to fund Jim Prochniak's salary, and then we work collaboratively together to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the community.
Thank you.
They're housed out in the public service building, and actually the county is right next to him as well. And it is true that they have to, like a flood problem, they have to prepare for that. He won't necessarily be frontline, but does all the different coordinating between all the different agencies. And the good thing for the commission, he makes sure that we get our FEMA money and get our federal money and get our state money. So he coordinates that with the whole departments.
Absolutely.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 39, recommendation to receive and file the order request for a declaratory judgment issued to the Cass County District Court in the case entitled Fargo Municipal Code Section 2-0106. Eric Johnson to explain.
Thank you, Mayor, and congratulations, Mayor, on the decision. I think the thing sort of speaks for itself. We, at our meeting at the end of July, I presented you my opinion, recommended a number of opportunities or options that you had. The one you selected was quite appropriate, is to get a court order that makes it an enforceable interpretation, something that not just commissioners can rely upon, but also members of the public that may be interested in running for mayor. And so we took this to court on a declaratory judgment proceeding. It's a discretionary matter on the court. They don't have to take it, but Judge Steele was assigned to the case. Many court decisions might take a year and a half to get to. This is something that's a little simpler because it didn't need a jury trial, for example. Nevertheless, we requested that the court give it a timely hearing process, and the court did accommodate that. Put together a very thoughtful decision, and we appreciate that as well, and made a decision just last week in a very short time period, again accommodating our wishes, and we appreciate that. So with that, the court has determined in interpreting our term limits ordinance 2-0106 that in the circumstance, somewhat unusual circumstance of Mayor Mahoney's tenure here with the city, that he is not termed out, that he's authorized then to run for another term as mayor in June of 2022.
Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Gehrig?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Preston?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Recommendation for agreement with Walker Consultants on the Civic Center parking ramp expansion. Jim Gilmore to explain.
Thank you, Commissioners. There continues to be a need for additional parking downtown, particularly when we look at the amount of vacant office space that's available for rent. Anyone looking for office space, one of their questions is always, where can I park, and is it within a block of where I'm going to be? And so the ability to re-rent some of the space, and for instance, in the Dakota building, or some of the new office space that's come online with the remodeling of the Black Building and Block 9, it's important that the parking be available. When we look at the existing parking facilities downtown, while there's some space available, if we look at all the office spaces available, we probably need 800 parking spots to service that space. We have approximately 340 available. One of the reasons we've had probably more available right now is with COVID, people have been slow to re-rent office space, and so they've had some tenants move out, as well as new space that's come online has not been rented. So you see here, the GTC and the NP lot, we have almost 200 spaces there, but there's about 46,000 square feet available in the Dakota building. I talked with JBC Commercial, who manages that building, and they've had people look at that space and are concerned about parking, but they do have some potential tenants, and so that space could be gone rather quickly. The Roberts Commons garage, we have, that's 93% occupied. That does not include hourly parking, and so you don't want to get too oversold there, or people don't have hourly parking. The Mercantile garage, there's space there, but the apartment building is not completed. There'll be 100 apartment units opening up within the next year. We've had some interest in the General Services Administration to take 60 of those spaces, as well as some potential tenants in Block 9. And so there is going to be demand for more parking. The timing on this is, let me see if I can get to the other, can we go to that image? This parking ramp was designed for one additional level. That level can be put on. You recently had a study done that took a look at whether or not that was still feasible with new building codes. Structurally, it's still, we're still able to do that. They looked to see if 2 could be done, but structurally it really wasn't, it doesn't have that capacity, as well as there'd be some issues with the hotel room with that lower floor the view would be blocked. So the one level can be done. The estimated cost of that is $2.8 million. That would add 68 parking spots. That's a little higher than building new, but here we already have the land paid for. We have the parking control equipment paid for, and it really doesn't add that much cost to service another level. There'd be another level of electricity. So you can see that kind of engineering image with the red that shows how it would be added. The image of the side, that's more just to show the scale. That's not the design. As we get into the design, we'll hopefully have something that blends in a little bit better. So we've used Walker Consultants on this ramp, doing some repair work. They've done the study. They actually still have the original engineering drawings from 1984. And so the Finance Committee has recommended that if we do this, we work with Walker. So they've done that study assessment. So I think it's important that we move ahead now so the design can be done over the next few months, bid it in February, and try to build it in the summer. Those summer months, it's going to be easier for construction costs because of the warmer weather. It's also, we tend to have a little bit lower parking demand in the summer, and as this other space leases up, I think it's important we try to do it now if we're going to do it. So my recommendation is to approve this agreement with Walker Consultants for the Civic Center ramp. The cost would be paid for with the proceeds of the Island Park ramp sale that we closed on 2 weeks ago.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'll just,
Burkhardt?
Mr. Chair, so real quickly, to me, this is one of the most high-value ramps that we have because of the connection to the Skyway. So from this ramp, you can go obviously to these, but you can also get to Broadway. You can get quite a few places, and so that's one of our ramps that has the highest occupancy. So I just think from the perspective of the best bang for the buck, this is a good thing. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Garrick?
How much additional revenue will the spots bring in per year?
The spots rent for $129 a month. There's people waiting to rent those. So our net income would be about $100,000 a year in addition to what we're receiving now.
So about a 28-year ROI on 2.8 million?
Probably about that, but if we put that money in the bank, we'll make about $60,000 a year on 2% interest, where if we put it into this ramp, we'll make 100,000, plus we'll provide more parking downtown.
I mean, the point being is no business would ever do this. If they needed the spots immediately, they could find ways, but we still have a capacity downtown. You know, there's still options out there. I never have a problem going downtown and finding spots. I don't know where this demand is coming from or where people aren't finding it. And I'm downtown quite often. I can't see spending the money on this. We have better things to do with this type of money.
Mr. Pipcorn.
I don't want to jump ahead, but my response is the first question that businesses coming downtown ask is, can we get parking? And so this isn't going to be our last request for parking. It's kind of interesting to me. It's one of the primary issues for economic development, and so it's very important. And so the on-street parking, in my view, that's for customers. But big businesses that are coming downtown, which a lot of them are, and they have to have parking. And the fortunate thing is now we've copied the ideas. Mike Williams, we went on a bus tour of Sioux Falls and Lincoln, Nebraska, where we did wrap buildings where you had a parking ramp in the middle. Well, we've got 2 of them and they're very successful. And so I think we're very fortunate. I don't think we predicted that they would turn out as quickly and as well as they have, but they're booming successes. And so we're very fortunate. And I would say we're going to probably have a couple more. And I will try not to name the business, but there's a new tech company. It seemed a few months ago, they contacted us and asked for 50 parking spots in the downtown because they love being downtown. Well, now a few months later, they contacted us. They're going to rent a whole building. They have 300 employees and they need a new parking ramp or some parking for them. And so it's a great problem to have. And so that's what a downtown is, and this is what we want to have happen. And so that's the way I look at it. This is great news, and so thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Preston.
A couple of things. I had sent you an email about a parking study, and it seems like I remember one from way back. Can you give me an indication? It seems like we have built out the ramps that were in that study. What else is on the docket to come forward?
I think this third ramp would build out sort of that short-term plan of doing the Roca location, the Mercantile location, and putting another level on this ramp. The other one we're looking at is the NP garage. So if we need even more parking space, and I think we will, that's the other location where physically you can fit another mixed-use development in that site that's jointly owned by the city and Global Development immediately west of the old Broadway.
Given all the things that you mentioned about why it makes sense to add a level to this one, why is it costing more than brand new?
You have a certain mobilization cost. It's more complicated to add on to a building, put another, if we decide to put another roof or another level onto this building someday, that'll cost more than if we had done it originally. That's just the mobilization costs. The other factor is certainly construction costs have gone up, but it's those 2 factors. But
my third point is, I would hate to see this happen without us addressing the facade of the parking ramp. It looks terrible from the sidewalk in my mind. So would that be, if that could be done, would that be separate from what we're talking about tonight?
yeah, there would be an additional cost if we do something aesthetic on the exterior. The 2.8 million would be the additional level. This ramp has some older lighting in it. It's not very well lit, and so one of the things we probably want to look at doing is that could be 80 to 100,000 to redo the lighting in it. As far as the exterior, if we did the whole exterior all brand new, that would probably be $1 million. There's probably some things we could do that would be less than that, and that's something we could look at, but that would be above and beyond the 2.8 million.
Does this company have the capability of proposing some kind of design for the facade, or is that totally separate?
This company has done a lot of parking ramps throughout the country. They are teamed up with Craftwell, a local architect. I don't think they have any experience with parking, but they provided us with some images and different types of screening that could be done. I think Walker could provide a lot of, excellent ideas, but they still need an architect to do, those architectural details. But it's a nationwide company, and they do parking ramps all over the country.
Commissioner Gregg?
If a company came to us, let's say the Kmart's building, the former one, and said, I want you to build my parking lot, we'd say no to that. If someone came to us on 19th Avenue and said, I'm building a new company, it's a tech company, we're gonna have 300 people, build us our parking lot, we'd say no. Downtown is the only place that we say yes. Why is that? We're treating downtown Fargo like it's better or different or somewhat special compared to other places in Fargo. And some people might think that it is, but people who are building their companies where they need to build it are being mistreated because we're giving these incentives to people. This is an incentive. It's one more incentive for downtown Fargo. So we should all be voting no. The taxpayer is not responsible for your business's parking. If you have a parking issue, you need to build a parking ramp. If that's where you want to be, is downtown Fargo, then you build the parking ramp. It's not incumbent upon the guy who lives on 70th Avenue South trying to pay his special assessments in his property tax bill to build the parking ramp in downtown Fargo. We need to stop doing this.
One of the public benefits of this has been, for instance, on weekends, if there's events downtown or parades, these ramps are open to the public so that, they're not exclusively used by the businesses that are renting the parking spaces. They're also used by people who come down for civic events and parades and craft shows and street fairs. And so I think that's why one of the reasons I think downtown's a little different than, West Acres.
Mr. Chairman?
Roll call vote, Commissioner Preston?
I think also it needs to be pointed out, the value of the property per acre downtown, I would assume, is quite a bit higher than, say, you take a West Acres with a huge parking lot. So there is some advantage to the public in having the high density. And that's where I see the advantage, being treated differently, that kind of thing.
Commissioner Strand?
Thank you, Mayor. Jim, prior to a couple weeks ago, I wouldn't have asked this question until it happened downtown. To what degree, when we build a structure like this, do we design it so that it's precluding people going up to the top floor and jumping out to the street?
Yeah, I'm not an expert on that. I know that's sort of a national issue. It hasn't happened a lot nationally, but people who are suicidal often look to leap off, whether there's be an overpass or a parking garage because they're so accessible. I think that's something we should look at with Walker as part of this to see if there are best practices or something that could be done. I think this is the first time it's happened in one of our facilities. Our manager at Interstate Parking has been doing this for 26 years. This is the first time it's happened at a facility he's been involved with. But certainly that's one too many.
And thank you, and that's all I'm asking is maybe we can learn and look at what others do and find some innovations that we could incorporate that we wouldn't have thought of before, but maybe it'd be prudent.
Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Garrick?
No.
Preston?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Recommendations by federal aid transportation project applications. Explanation by Jeremy Gordon.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Good to be in front of you tonight. I'm excited about these applications. So just before I get into the slideshow, this item comes to you from our Public Works Committee. And we went there a couple times to discuss these projects. Engineering, planning, and Public Works talked about our needs and talked about these projects. So these projects have been well vetted. So I can get right into it. I can tell you what we have currently programmed for using federal aid and then what these applications are. So the federal system is usually a 4-year bill. You're always looking out 4 years. So we're just wrapping up 2021 with our projects. The next 3 years, I said 4, we don't have any for 2025. But the next 3 years, we're wrapping up 64th Avenue South overpass. We'll get into 32nd Avenue, the project that we've talked quite a bit about here, 32nd Street to 22nd Street. And we'll be spending a little bit over $1 million on transit bus purchases in 2022. In 2023, we'll finish off the 52nd Avenue project going west to Cheyenne Street in West Fargo. We've got the 2nd Street pedestrian bridge that we were awarded last year, just south of the building here. We're purchasing more buses next year. And then we've got a shared use path up in the Bison Village area, not to be confused with the Bison Meadow area that we discussed earlier. This is an important path from North Fargo, from 32nd Avenue up to 37th, kind of behind the wastewater treatment facility. And in 2024, we'll be tackling the remaining portion on 32nd Avenue over to University, and hopefully Main Avenue from University to 25th Street. Those are some big large-scale projects that we got currently planned. So this is just a little bit more of that. This is 32nd Avenue South. The red is what we're going to plan on reconstructing next year. The yellow is in 2024. 52nd Avenue will get where we ended by the Deer Creek Parkway a couple years ago over to Cheyenne Roundabout. Our project will incorporate adding lanes to that roundabout for additional capacity. This is draft. This is just for show, but this is the 2nd Street pedestrian bridge that we just hired the consultant engineer. There's a number of bridge concepts. We're pretty excited about what's in store for this potential crossing. This is the shared use path 2023 behind the wastewater treatment plant on the 10th Street alignment. This is going to be a nice addition to the neighborhood. Main Avenue, the mile stretch, University to 25th. And that's what we have currently programmed that we're going to spend federal aid on. So these projects coming up here that I'm going to show you are what we're requesting. And it'll ultimately go through MetroCog to DOT. So the goal for our system, you may ask, what are you doing here, Jeremy? So we want to use federal aid, and really the most important thing is to rehab, reconstruct, and replace what we currently have. We've looked more inward versus capacity expansion outward. So that comes from the long-range transportation plan. We want to improve our connections across the river and the county drains. Drain 27 and Drain 53 in South Fargo, they run pretty long and they're wide crossings, so they are an impediment. So in Go 2030, there's a transportation section and a health section. In the transportation, improve pedestrian bicycle connectivity by identifying gaps in the local and regional system. I'm showing you these because they do relate to the projects list. And in the health, add on to our existing loops or trails to create a loop and for year-round recreational activities. So with that, there's 3 programs. Just like the chief said, the federal government has a lot of acronyms. So we got 3 programs: urban roads, transportation alternatives, and highway safety improvement. So one person told me a long time ago, it makes a lot of sense. The urban road program is the penicillin for federal funding of your infrastructure. So the first project we'd like to do is replace the North Broadway Bridge. It's currently closed. We closed it in February. We believe programming this, to get this thing programmed for receiving federal aid, we believe we're going to be able to reconstruct it before the year 2026. The new highway bill has quite a bit more money for bridges. We think the worst case, this could probably get programmed for 2024.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question? So Jeremy, so what we see there, so that's basically a temporary replacement, is that correct? So this is, the version of the bridge where it's where it's complementary to the flood protection. Is that going to be a higher one at a later date?
No, so this application, that's a good question. This application would replace the existing bridge basically at the same elevation. So it would be floodable, yes.
So this is a short-term fix, would you say?
No, when we build bridges, they're usually 50-year bridges. But to your question though, we could elevate it. It's probably going to be twice the cost at least.
So Mr. Chair, here, my thing is, with this bridge, I believe it should be replaced as quickly as possible because it's impacting North Fargo and neighborhoods right now. And I also think it should be complementary to the completed diversion. And so if there's a way we can figure that out, because it doesn't make sense for me to replace this with a floodable bridge, and because we shouldn't be building those anymore. Do you get what I'm saying? And so
We probably should, Jeremy, we probably should see the two options, because if you do a bridge higher, it takes out some houses and does some other things, and you say it's price, increased cost. I shouldn't say takes out houses, takes out some roads, and you do some different things than you presently would do just to replace it. So it probably warrants a discussion to show you the difference.
So, Mr. Chair, just to add one more thing, I do think this is a diversion authority discussion, because I do think this is part of should be part of that whole project, not just us. That's what I believe. I believe this is complementary of the whole diversion. And so we have two bridges in North Fargo that should be improved and brought out of the, anyway.
Some would argue you can do a bridge, it'd be 12th Avenue because it has more flow. You have more traffic across 12th than you do Broadway Bridge. So I think it's something that the engineering department has to look at and show us the two options.
Yeah, we can do that.
So I apologize for getting off topic, but I do think we want to spend money wisely as a city commission. And I do think this is impacting, right now that bridge is closed and the rerouted goes through a neighborhood now. And that's not a good long range. And to me, 2026, that's a long time from now. And so anyway, I'm sorry, Jeremy, for hijacking your presentation, but I just wanted to get that across. And I don't know if the other commissioners agree with me, but I just think it's a serious thing. Thank you.
Commissioner Garrett?
Yeah, and the North Siders want to hear this, right? Because it is important. The 12th Avenue one affects me directly. This affects a lot of people, in that area as well. They are very important bridges for us because we don't have a whole lot of them. Is the 12th Avenue bridge part of this request? Do I have to wait a minute? Or is that not going to be part of it?
No, 12th Avenue is not in this request.
Okay. That's one thing that I'm like Dave, that's one to me that's very, very important. That's people getting to work every day and not having to take interstate and go way south or whatever. You know what I mean? So these are we call them neighborhood bridges, but for economic development and for just people getting to work every day, these are really important for the north side.
Mr. Chair, just one more thing to go along with Commissioner Gary. The 12th Avenue Bridge, like you said, is even more important because that actually, for Northwest Minnesota, that's how a lot of people get to the VA. And if you kept track of the license plates of the people using that bridge, I would say 50% of the people are going to the VA on that bridge. And so these are very important. North Fargo, we're not as glamorous as the rich people in South Fargo, but we have a couple bridges there that I believe are vital, and they should be out of the flood issue. So
I think Jeremy's glad to hear this discussion because the infrastructure funding that came out of the federal government right now does pay for bridges. So one of the things I'd like the priorities by the commission, 12th, Broadway, which one do you want first, and which one could we do? We might be able to do something in 12th Avenue at 15 million, 18 million, and we might be do something at Broadway and have a discussion about that. But if your concurrence, if you want to do something before 26, I think the engineering department, we would have to look seriously at applying for those funds and see if we could find some funding for one or both of those bridges at a more quickly fashion. Commissioner Pepcorn.
Just one more thing, and I apologize for hijacking this, but the other thing is, this isn't just us. This isn't just the city of Fargo. This is Clay County and Moorhead, and there are partners, and so they should also be looking at this. And I do think the federal funding should be, this is an opportunity, but we don't want to build a bridge twice. That's the thing that really bothers me. And I do think there's a lot of people that are anticipating that bridge to be repaired. And so, anyway, I'm not trying to make anybody look bad, but I just think let's do it. These are the only two bridges in Fargo that are in the floodplain, as far as I know. And to me, they're both in North Fargo, and I believe Jeremy was targeting North Fargo on purpose. That's what I believe.
No. Mr. Strand.
Thank you. As long as we're taking a moment's reprieve and focusing in on this topic, thank you for bringing this up. I believe, if I recall, when this bridge was brought to our attention, there seemed to be a consensus here. Well, of course, when we rebuild it, we build it above 37 feet, which will be the new water level in a flood. I just can't imagine we would put another dam in there that'll hold water back, that'll contribute to flooding internally. So I think that's a really good point to bring up, Commissioner Pepcorn, right now, that I sensed that's what we said then. I wouldn't want us to build a bridge that's not above the new flowage levels we've established for the flooding, for the diversion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Preston?
do both of these bridges create ice jams that cause problems backing up?
No, the good thing is in Fargo, we don't have ice jams because the river gets so wide. The channel, I mean, stuff gets caught on it, but it doesn't raise the water behind it.
Okay.
So if I could, I mean, I hear exactly what you guys are saying. So this is, we're going to have $12.5 million annually to spend through MetroCog that will get funneled through the DOT to us. So ultimately, the policy board will be making decisions on these projects, but we're trying to be fiscally conscious when we bring these projects forward. You can build a much higher bridge, but it gets much longer. So that $4.5 million turns to 10 or 12 in a real hurry. And on this graphic, the roadway wouldn't make any sense to put it back south where we're stabilizing the bank. That's low-lying ground. We have to find a place for that road, and it probably is through Royal Oaks Drive. So we can raise it, but there's certainly impacts. Like we can replace this bridge pretty easy in place. If we want to go higher and further, there's going to be impacts, and it's not so easy. And then you get to our $12.5 million a year. Well, there's our one project. So we can build a lesser project and build more of them. And to the 12th Avenue point, I love that project. I love getting that out of the plane. That's got 4 to 5 times more vehicles a day than this one does. But that's a bi-state bridge, and that's going to be $15 to $16 million. Because, I mean, you take a 200 to 300 foot long bridge and you make it 1,000 feet long. I mean, do the math. In those situations, we need both states to work together, and there really needs to be specific grant programs other than an annual obligation like we get.
So, Mr. Chair, can I just?
Excuse me, Garrick was up for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and Dave, you're probably not going to like to hear this. This North Broadway one, I don't think people would mind if it flooded, for a week every 10 years. You know what I mean? I think that people would just need this bridge back, and if we can do that cost effectively, I think that people would want that more than some very expensive one that's flood proof. And I know you're coming from. We don't want it to impact the diversion. I think this would have low impact in that regard. The 12th Avenue one is the one I'm more interested in keeping out, because no matter what, we need that one to be operational, or else it does have major impacts. And I think it's more doable, I guess, than this one would be to get it out of the floodplain or out of the flood impact. So if it's me making the decision, I start with the 12th Avenue Bridge. If we're looking at priorities, make that the priority, get it out of the water. And then this one here would be my second. And I would just say replace it, what we have, and kind of just deal with the fact that it's in low-lying ground.
Commissioner Pepcorn.
So this might surprise you, Commissioner Garrick. I'm going to totally disagree with you. Here's my reasoning. The 12th Avenue Bridge is open right now. This one is closed, and so we can't be building bridges that are flooded. That's bad on us. And so I think, to me, and I know it might take time, but I would rather do this right one time. And it has to be out of the floodplain. And I do think it shouldn't just be the city of Fargo. This should be a diversion thing. So I apologize for disagreeing with you, but I know the 12th Avenue one is used more. I believe it is more important, but this one is closed. It's out of commission. And the other thing that's going on out there is Amazon and the amount of traffic that's going to be created. Amazon is not even running yet. And so it's going to create more and more traffic. And right now it's going through a neighborhood, and that's not a good situation. The traffic is not on a main road, it's going through a neighborhood. And so anyway, I'm sorry, Jeremy, once again, we've kind of derailed your presentation, but I do think this is an important thing. And these two bridges the diversion has changed our city. And so we want to make sure that we don't build stuff that's in the floodplain. All right, thank you. I'm sorry.
I just remind the diversion had nothing to do with the bridge failing. The bridge failed, so it failed. It was not part of the plan on the diversion. Whether the diversion's here or not, the bridge failed. So that's the issue we have. Commissioner Preston.
If we're done talking about this particular bridge, I have another question. I've noticed the urban grant program, we haven't done anything in that program for a few years. Is the Second Street pedestrian bridge programmed for that program?
Yep.
So my second question is, the decorative concrete, the decorative bricks downtown, they need work. Is that something that would qualify for the urban grant program, and would that be considered?
You're talking about the intersections of Broadway and Second and Fourth, or really
All of them?
See, the federal aid, we like to spend quite a bit of it on a project. So that would be more of our local money, but that can certainly be talked about.
So when I look back at some of the projects that had been approved, it was that kind of thing. Decorative concrete, decorative bricks,
You're talking statewide?
like Valley City,
Yeah.
Grand Forks.
Yeah, I mean, the urban grant is kind of to come in and retrofit and make the streetscaping nicer. We can certainly look at that in next year's submittal, but that we could also use our local funds for those kind of fixes. Like we had to do the bricks at NP and First Avenue on Broadway, and that was a local project. So we can talk about that internally. So getting back to this bridge, unfortunately, we can't leave this bridge. Okay, so we know bridge crossings across the Red River are very important. There is a bridge a half mile away. So the way I think about this is, yeah, it would be nice to have both of them out of the water all the time. But in the event that this bridge, the future bridge at a 23 flood stage, would go underwater, it would go underwater less than once a year. So in that event, the bridge a half mile away could be used. That's my line of thinking. I'm just trying to be fiscally responsible. I'm not from this area. I'm from northern Minnesota. To hear a bridge go underwater is kind of a crazy thought, but money's money and you got to spend it wisely. So it's nice to have a river crossing under normal conditions, but if it does get flooded, it does get flooded, and then there's another crossing a half mile away.
Jeremy, let's take that offline and maybe have a brown bag discussion on it, because there's arguments both ways on it. There's a variety of discussions that we could have on it, but just in the interest of time tonight, let's finish yours.
Okay. So next one, there's nothing interesting about this. This is a concrete pavement repair. So I should add, when we ask for federal aid, it's really just to supplement our sales tax funds. So when we have concrete pavement that we have, we've been rehabbing 13th Avenue this summer, concrete pavement repair. It just chews up a lot of money. So this would be 3.5 miles of existing concrete paving we'd like to redo or fix from I-94 north up to 16th Avenue. And the third project is a brand new bridge, a pedestrian bridge over the Red River at 40th Avenue South. This was our first project priority last year. So this would connect 40th Avenue on our side to 50th Avenue on the other side, I guess. I think that's what it is, or 52nd. So this in yellow would be the actual bridge. This bridge it wouldn't be lifted. It would be built out of the river at 37 feet. The red would be the path. And then the fourth project is actually combining these three locations into one. This is 19,000 linear feet of path. Drain 27, Drain 53, and along River Drive. So the Deer Creek neighborhood is to the southwest there. We'd like to connect via the Drain 27, and then we'd have a spur coming off on our water reservoir to Deer Creek Elementary. That's the first area. Second area is to extend on Drain 53 from 64th down to 73rd. And the third area is River Drive. It's hard to believe there used to be houses along that whole stretch. We have one left on Harwood or Hackberry. This would be a path from Harwood Drive down to 40th Avenue. And the fifth one is the bus purchase, 1.25 for bus. So that concludes the urban roads. There's one project for transportation alternatives, which is paths, safe routes to school, some other miscellaneous. We have one project connecting the trails, Milwaukee Trail to the Drain 53 trail system. It's located right here. You can see the Rose Creek Golf Course to the east. The awesome trail along that. It basically dead ends at 25th Street, and you go north or south on 25th Street. We could come to the Oak Creek area. This really comes to us as flood buyout. Flood buyouts create opportunities for paths. This would be a really nice connection to get across the drain there onto the Timberline path area. This would get flooded. This would be a concrete box culvert that would basically protect to get flooded, and then easily cleaned once it recedes. And then highway safety, this is the last two projects. Highway safety are supposed to be small scale that have a big impact on safety. So the two intersections we'd like to improve the offset, or the left turns at the signals, is on 19th Avenue and University, and on 45th Street and 23rd Avenue. That 45th and 23rd Avenue is quickly rising up the ranks to be one of our highest crash locations in town. So we'd like to offset the left turns to bring those numbers down. And then the second one is just a quick auxiliary lane addition on 45th Street. It's really a small amount of concrete, but from 19th Avenue to the actual I-94 bridge. So here's the summary of all the projects I went over. And I probably should get clarification on what exactly you want to do to North Broadway. We can include it, we can exclude it and wait for next year. We can include it and ask for a $12 million bridge. I do need direction on that.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve everything and just exclude the Red River Bridge until we get a more clear plan on that. If that's all right with everyone, I think that's.
The Broadway Bridge.
Yeah, is that enough clarification?
Yep.
Is there a second? Second. Mr. Strand, you had your hand up. You had a question?
I'll wait till after this vote. Well, maybe
Well,
not.
it's a motion to finish the
sorry.
discussion.
All right. Jeremy, you're looking forward into projects and expenditures and investments. When I see a couple $1 million for buses, of course, and transit is one of my portfolios. And then we have the Sustainability Resiliency Committee. Like what we've done in recent years, we're starting to add ROI to our thinking processes. I would challenge us with every opportunity we can going forward that we also start adding a criteria for environmental and energy resiliency, so that when we have projects, we measure impacts to the environment and benefits, pros and cons of different projects and approaches. So for example, let's leave ourselves some room, because I know right now there's some argument about electric buses being viable, but in a year they might be, or there might be some new technologies that open that up for us. So my suggestion is that we start building this element of review into everything we do, energy, how it affects the planet, how it affects the environment, what are the energy efficiencies, and so on to what we're doing.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Preston?
So if the North Broadway Bridge gets pulled out temporarily here, does that free up some dollars, or will you come back with a recommendation on that one? What happens to the entire package?
So like I said, 12.5 million metro area annually. So we do compete with West Fargo, and I know they're going to be submitting to replace Cheyenne Street for a mile from 40th down to 52nd. Last year, they were awarded the project on 9th Street north of Main Avenue, and we didn't get any of the projects we noted. It's competitive, but if we pull out the North Broadway Bridge, that just makes, combined here, let's see, we got about $14 million in asking of federal, so we wouldn't get all these in a perfect world anyways.
Okay.
Commissioner Garrick first?
Yeah, I would advocate that we put the Broadway in there. It being down longer is not going to help anybody. We need something to be put in there. And I don't foresee the longer, taller bridge working in the future anyway. So the best option is just to get it in.
To keep it in rather than take it out.
Correct. I want to put it back in, contrary to the motion.
Commissioner Strand?
And I think your suggestion, Mayor, to have a brown bag would be very relevant for this, because we need to talk this through. Of course, in my mind, I'll go, well, we don't let people or businesses or homeowners build along the river. We have setbacks, we've created our criteria. I don't think we should have different rules for different people. I don't think we should be putting a bridge in the floodplain and creating a barrier. If we're not letting people build structures and other things, why would we be able to? I just don't see, I think I see double standards here. So that bridge is a point of contention going forward, and I just don't see myself ever voting to support building a structure that's below the new expected flood level, 37 feet, period. That's where I'm at.
Understand where you're at, John, but you flood only once a year for 2 weeks, and that's 4 million versus 12 million. Sometimes we have to think about that. What Jeremy's saying is 12 million is all we get on a yearly basis. So it's where you want to put your money and your funding. I think it merits a good discussion and find out where we are going. This can come back into the budget next year.
Well, I mean, we could have a brown bag relatively soon. Essentially, we need to get applications to the DOT by the end of the year. MetroCog would like to act on them first 10 days in December, but we could revisit this in a couple weeks. Get some direction on North Broadway.
What if we tabled it for 2 weeks? Could you do something in 2 weeks?
I would like concurrence on the rest of them, but we could certainly table Broadway.
Wow.
I'd like to get something to COG yet this month, minus Broadway.
So if I can just quick add, unfortunately, as Jeremy's been talking, the list, we've had a process for the North Broadway Bridge. We did the survey. We are meeting with our consultants this week to kind of talk about a process. And the whole thought was we will be back to you with a brown bag to talk about the different options. And it might be, maybe we can find some additional monies somewhere to add on to the federal monies to help raise that bridge. Unfortunately, the list is due before we could get that brown bag in. And so by putting it on the list, it kind of got us a placeholder at least. And so that's kind of why we added it to the list, is to get that placeholder on there. And especially just knowing that with this new bill, we're seeing some additional bridge funds possibly coming out. And so we were just trying to get it on the list. That's not precluding our brown bag and to talk about what the right elevation is, and that meeting coming it'll just come, unfortunately,
So
after
if you
the
have it on
list.
the list, what's it listed as the cost?
Today?
Yeah.
4.5 million.
4.5 million. So if we left it on the list, had a brown bag and wanted to go higher, it just might be the feds would look at it 4 or 5. But if you did a bigger project, don't you get a chance to say, hey, by the way, it's going to cost more?
I think that is a good idea. Leave it on the list. Let's talk about this a little bit more, and we can come back in 2, even 4 weeks to pick your option that you really want to move forward with.
It's just that we don't want to get behind West Fargo. We may have a good project. If it's not on the list, then it's not listed. Federal money right now lists bridges. It's specifically in the language. So I'd hate to miss that opportunity. If they say, hey, we got some extra, here's an extra 5 million, you could build the bridge. We'll discuss that issue, but it just seems it might make sense to leave it on the list.
I think it should be on the list because they only ask for these once a year. So the next ask is a year from now for a 2027 project.
Mr. Pepper.
So, Mr. Chair, what I would like the engineering department to do is to get us the price for building a bridge that's compatible with the diversion. And so find out what that price is. I know it's going to be more, but it is not responsible spending for us to build a replacement bridge that's like John said, in the floodplain. And it's not, to say it's acceptable to let it flood, that's ridiculous. That we're done with that. If that's what we're going to do, then I got a lot of different things. That's not acceptable to build how can we even talk about that? That's ridiculous. To build
and we have bridges downtown that flood with the 37 flood. We have one bridge open downtown and we have one bridge on 94. So are you going to rebuild all the bridges downtown? Mr.
Once
Preston.
the diversion gets built, none of those bridges are going to flood, are they?
Mr. Chairman? if I
First,
could-
First Avenue will still get flooded a little bit, but it'll be gated off anyways.
If I could propose something to move this forward, it sounds like all of this conversation would be at the brown bag. And it sounds like there's still an opportunity to elevate it if we want to, if we can find a second source. If we don't, I'm assuming we can change it at that point and pull it off. Is that correct? So, Mr. Chairman, I would propose an amendment to put the bridge back on the list.
Is there a second? Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote on the amendment, please.
Preston?
Aye.
Garrick?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Aye.
Mahoney?
Aye. Now we vote on the first motion, which had it off, but now it's on with the amendment.
Correct.
Roll call vote, please.
Pepcorn?
No.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Strand?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll come back at 6:30. Thank you. Call the meeting back to order. Item 42, first reading the ordinance related to the City of Fargo Police Advisory and Oversight Board. There is a motion to approve this. I have Chief Sabowski and Nancy Morris to explain any questions, and Terry Hogan as well. Do I have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Let's have a discussion. Mr. Garrett.
Did anything change since the last time this was presented?
No, there has been no changes to the amendments, or excuse me, to the ordinance as it was presented 2 weeks ago.
Nancy, can you explain, there's a question about an ordinance versus a policy. One of the commissioners, which is Mr. Garrett, had wanted a discussion on ordinance versus policy, and I think both you and the chief has researched that.
Well, we looked into it, and of course, what we did in drafting this ordinance was look at other ordinances. And so could it be a policy? Could it be by resolution? It could be. Again, there's a question of how does this board wish to proceed? We presented it in ordinance form, thinking that would be the most transparent, and it would also have this commission then deciding what those terms would be, rather than a board that would be appointed by the mayor. So that's how it's presented now, and certainly could be changed at your wishes.
Chief, do you want to comment to that?
No, I just think in terms of the work that's been done on it, that the value of the ordinance versus the policy, understanding both perspectives, is that from a community perspective, should there be any changes, amendments to the board itself, that it would then involve first and second reading and public input, making sure that voice isn't lost going forward. And again, I think it's a commission decision about what format you want it in, but I think from the public perspective, that would be their concern.
Mr. Garrett.
Yeah, my concerns are the same as last time, that nothing has changed. We have many boards that are important to people that are our policies. We can put into law that there has to be this board, but to give the specific makeup and what's qualifying and what's disqualifying, you can't have a felon. I mean, those are decisions that I think each commission should make. When we're gone, after your last term or whatever, when there's a new commission, they should be able to decide what makes up those boards. And that decision in 2063 shouldn't be decided by a city commission from 2021. So that's why it's a bad idea to put these in law, and a better idea to put them in policy. But we could still have in law that this must exist. That's what we used to do with almost all of our boards. But of the last 7 or so years, we've decided to handcuff future commissions and make these all laws instead of policies.
Other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just agree with Commissioner Gehrig. I'm on my 3rd police chief. They're all wonderful people. Police chiefs change, city commissioners change, mayors change, and I think to put this in here is not appropriate. I think, like Commissioner Gehrig said, this is putting something with way more permanence and maybe someday it should be permanent, but to me, this is brand new, and we're putting it right in. I don't think that's, I don't support that either. I think it's a wonderful concept, and I know the chief is in favor of that. That's great. Chiefs change, life changes. And to have that be put in there, that's a big step from my perspective. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other discussion? Mr. Strand?
Thank you, Mayor. And last time, we have a couple topics tonight that people in the public can see. We really don't always talk through these things at all prior to them landing in our agendas. In fact, we can't. We have to have channels of communication that are established and that are visible to the public and transparent. This is one of those topics that surfaced, and I didn't know it was coming, so I asked my questions, and I'll tell the public I got my questions answered. What I wanted to know was to what degree or not can somebody who has previous involvement with law, previous arrests or previous convictions, whether or not they can apply to be on this board. Our team has satisfied my questions with examples of other communities that have done exactly what you're proposing. And maybe down the road, we can modify this as laws change, as incarcerations and arrests change. But for the moment, I'm very comfortable with where we are to get a start so we can see how this works and to reach out and step up the community engagement. So thank you for doing that. But I just want to tell the public that my questions were answered. I still kind of wish and hope someday that we don't have barriers for people who've had previous arrests and so on, but it's a start and it's better than nothing. So the community needs this and the public needs this, and we have a chief that's embracing it. So I thank you all for your leadership as well.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I ask that, so then you're going to have convicted felons on the oversight board and advisory board for the police?
Can I answer that?
Yes, you can.
At this point, it's not being proposed, Commissioner Pepcorn. However, down the road, I'm open to hearing about, we have people out there who've regained their rights to vote. They've regained their rights to do a lot of things after 20, 30 years ago they had an involvement with the law. I'm not so hard, fast, and determined to punish people for their whole existence for something they did back when they've satisfied what the court required of them.
Commissioner Preston?
Yeah, I would just like to say I am so thrilled to see this happening. And there's been a lot of work that's gone into it. This is an ordinance. It is not something that's going to the public vote, so it is more easily changed, and it is not permanent. I mean, it can be changed in the future if that would be a requirement. So I just really appreciate, and I think the community will appreciate the transparency that this establishes.
Roll call vote.
Strand?
Yes.
Preston?
Aye.
Garrick?
No.
Pepcorn?
No.
Mahoney?
Aye. Oh, Chief, I think you still have to stay up here. Terry and Nancy can sit down. Recommendation to eliminate the wildlife management program at the conclusion of the 2021-2022 hunting season. Chief Zabowski.
Thank you, Commissioners. In a nutshell, I think we've probably come full circle from our first look at this on June 1st, where I brought forward public safety concerns regarding this wildlife management program. From that point forward, we took public input at a public hearing, created a study group to look at addressing public safety issues as well as oversight and operations. This went on through the summer. The end of the study group review, there were no meaningful changes made in terms of public safety issues, nor was there any interest on the part of any other entity in potentially taking over such a program. In summation, the program creates an easy method for a very small amount of hunters, no more than 45, to hunt areas mostly within the city during specific times. As you are aware, the city has grown greatly in population and usage. The usage of our beautiful parks and recreation areas since 2005, 2006, when this was first put into place. This brings with it an obvious conflict in terms of community members' ability to safely utilize our park system with those who wish to utilize our park system to hunt deer and turkey with a bow and arrow. there is substantial public hunting land opportunities within the Fargo area for bow and arrow hunters to otherwise safely hunt deer. Therefore, the elimination of this program would in no way take away the hunting abilities of the 45 applicants. However, continuation of the program based on public input received, and I have since our public hearing received a substantial amount of petitions from folks who live here in Fargo, but also across the river and in other areas of the state, who come to these areas to utilize our great recreational areas. And based on that input, is having an adverse effect on public usage of our public park and recreation areas and creates an unnecessary public safety risk. And I think it was expressed very well by a couple of the folks during public speaking this evening. So my recommendation is to repeal Ordinance 1204, which would eliminate the city's wildlife management program effectively at the conclusion of the 2021-2022 hunting period.
Questions to the chief? Commissioner Kerr.
I'm glad you read that portion, because I was going to read a portion of that aloud as well, just for context for the community. Can you tell us what the specific, you say in there, obviously this is a conflict, people who want to safely use the park and those who want to hunt. What's the obvious safety concern?
The close proximity, arrows from bows can go in a lot of different directions. Actually, if you look at the last 4 hunting seasons, we've had 94 deer harvested, so that's 94 arrows. But actually, 148 arrows have been fired. That's 54 arrows. We don't know where they went. We know that they didn't hit someone, which is very good, but the potential to hit someone as the parks, even in winter with the cross-country skiers, well-managed trails through there, that is increasing with the increase in our population, not just city, but in the usage by adjoining people, jurisdictions, and things of that nature. Again, the petitions that we've seen from folks who have been there, seen the signs, and gone the other way. I've received an email and got some other phone calls as well from concerned citizens along those same lines. And again, when you weigh, I think, the public safety concerns versus the ability for these hunters to go just to another area, I think the only change is that it's maybe not as easy. There are plenty of plots, land, and other areas to hunt here for someone who wants to do that. And it doesn't put them in close proximity to members of the public.
In 15 years, how many accidents have there been?
I think we only, last time in June, there was one person that got it in the shoe that over that time frame.
I don't think that person was injured, because that's the first I've heard of that.
Yeah, and I'm going from memory on that. I don't recall if there was an actual injury, but it was reported as either someone in close proximity of an arrow discharge.
Yeah, someone found it. So if we're using the standard of obvious safety concerns, and this might be the safest program in Fargo. For the park system, had to have a 15-year program where no one has been injured, 0 people, no property has been damaged. That's unprecedented. More people, I'm glad you mentioned the cross-country skiers. There are more people injured every year that we've had that program than this program in 15 years. If there's an obvious concern about safety in our parks for this program, then we have to shut down the basketball courts, because there's more injuries a season than there is in this program in 15 years. We better shut down Dyke for tubing for children, because every single year there's an ambulance called there at least once for kids who hurt themselves. The skate park is right next to the Dyke. Kids get hurt there all the time. Ambulances get called because people get hurt. Basketball, hockey, softball. We better shut all these down then. If this is the safety concern and this is the standard, that less than 0 must be the standard for injuries for any program, then we can have no programs. This is the safest program in the city of Fargo. And to say the cognitive dissonance to say there's safety concerns and then have no concerns whatsoever is astounding. So some people might not like this program because they don't like hunting. That's fine. To say that it's fine, you just go somewhere else and hunt, is a non-argument. This is a safe program within our city that people enjoy, that some people see the benefit of along the river. And to then again say that the population is growing in the city of Fargo totally ignores the fact that in many areas that this hunting takes place, we have less homes today than we did 15 years ago due to the dike and the buying out of homes. So there is no safety concern here. That's the main concern we have here. The other sub concerns we have is the police time. Well, in one breath, you say that only 45 people use this, therefore it's not a significant number. Then the other breath is, but it takes a significant amount of time for the police to give out licenses for this and to monitor it. Well, which is it? Is it a huge program that takes up a bunch of your time, or is it a non-program that hardly anyone uses? Because it can't be both. So it can't be that. There's no safety concerns, and if you're gonna claim safety, then I call that we close down basketball in the city of Fargo.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Preston?
So it's not only the issue of actual safety issues or safety problems that have existed, it is the perception. And I don't know if any of you have gone into any of these parks along the river. The trails are very much in the trees. You have no idea who else is in those woods. And those trails are beautiful. Now, my husband and I actually visited a couple of these in the last few weeks, well, probably months. And that sign is intimidating. So it's the perception of safety, just as much as the fact that there haven't been incidents. So, you know, the parks are there, these urban parks that have been developed because of homes being removed are open to the public. And the parks are there for that reason, not for hunting.
Commissioner Pipcorn?
So, Mr. Chair, I'm going to encourage us to continue this because I believe what we need is a comprehensive urban wildlife management plan. Because we don't have one right now. And with the diversion, with all the money we're spending, we need to have a plan. And I don't believe the police should be involved in it in any way. We should have the park district, wildlife management experts, and us create a plan and have what is this going to be like? Because this is going to be more important in the future. I just have a few things for you. So if you have an overgrowth of deer population, which we had 20 years ago, it was very bad. What happens? Deer carry disease, Lyme disease, and chronic wasting disease. In the United States, 30,000 car accidents a year, billions of dollars in damage, multiple motorcycle fatalities. And then the interesting thing is, so now we're spending money with the diversion, we're replanting on the other side of the levee. Well, do you know who does the most damage to all the replanting that we're doing? Deer. That's their hors d'oeuvres. And so they eat all, and new vegetation, that's who consumes most and does most of the damage. Here's a good, from a U.S. Forest Service botanist, the greatest forest conservation challenge is deer. And so I had multiple contacts from people that encouraged us to continue the current hunting setup. But I think what we need to do is take a step back and have us make a policy. The political leaders from us, from the Park District, from Cass County, if they want to participate, and have actual experts in wildlife management come and help us create a policy, because that's what we need. We don't need, this is an action. We need vision and a long-term plan. So that's what I believe we should do. Do this professionally, and because this, you know, the Greenway, that's not just in Fargo, but it's going to be, I believe, a very popular thing. And so we have to have a policy. The other thing, there's lots of animals along the river, and we want the river, the trees along the river are beautiful. We want to keep that going. Do you know who does a lot of damage to them? Beavers. And so there's lots of wildlife along there. And so I think we need to take a step back and think about all this instead of just taking a reaction. And I'm very fearful of animal activists trying to dictate our policies. And so that concerns me. Thank you.
Chief, you attempted to work with the park board and the wildlife management team as a triangle, as I understand that. Tell us how that went.
The North Dakota Game and Fish and Fargo Parks District participated in the study group. And throughout that process and after, and speaking with the Parks Director, they have expressed no interest in taking over the program. Either one of the entities should the program continue from that perspective. So,
Mr. Strand, did you have your hand up?
I did, Mayor, and you know, we're in North Dakota. There's hunters everywhere you look, and we all grew up hunting, and almost everybody has guns. We understand that. I understand that. That's my family. That's my world. But I also understand you don't be discharging weapons in a city. And I don't want to go down this path. And I've weighed this issue. Several months ago, I was going, I like hunting and we need to manage the wildlife. But bottom line, in the end, I can't vote for opening up opportunities for weapons in the city, period. Just like I don't want more gun sales in our neighborhoods. I don't want more weapons in our cities. That's where I'm at. We got jackrabbits, we got turkeys, we got deer. I don't know the value of saying, in our city you can hunt, because there's someday going to be an incident that we'll regret.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Preston.
If I could put a motion on the floor, I would move to pass or approve the recommended motion.
Don't we already have that?
Oh, did we?
No? Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. Okay. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Is that to repeal?
I'm sorry,
Is that
to repeal.
To
Yeah.
repeal? I'll second it.
Further discussion?
So, Mr. Chair, then my question is, so what's our vision? Because we're going to have wildlife in Fargo, so are you just going to ask them to not damage anything and the disease and things like that? Are we going to have a masking program or vaccination program for the Lyme disease for the deer?
Mr. Preston, you want to?
Mr. Chairman, if there is a desire to have some kind of wildlife management program that doesn't include weapons, yeah, let's look at that. And by all means, let's bring that forward. That could be brought forward in conjunction with this. Maybe it's
Sure.
trapping and letting them go somewhere else.
Mr. Gehrig?
I don't think you want to trap a deer. I don't think you wanna do
No,
that.
but if we're talking beavers and rabbits and turkeys, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that I think is getting the people who are opposed to this, is it's a weapon and it's scary and those type of things. But again, this is the safest program in the city of Fargo. You cannot tell me a different program. Gymnastics, whatever. People get hurt all the time. There's been literally no property. When I was a kid, I threw the football around, I hit a couple windows. You know what I mean? That didn't happen here at all. So to say it's a weapon and therefore we can't have it is just an anti-hunting or anti-gun or whatever you want to call it mentality that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about a very successful program that people enjoy. They're utilizing our parks. That's what it's there for, to be utilized by the public. If you don't like cross-country skiing, then don't cross-country ski. If you don't like hunting in parks, then don't hunt in parks. But there's no danger to you, and we've proven it over a 15-year trial period. How can you have more evidence than that? So to say the perception of danger is there, too bad. I mean, if there's some guys outside your house playing basketball and that perceives as scary to you, and you call the cops are going to walk up, they're going to say hello, they're going to leave. They're not going to change anything. The perception does not matter. How you perceive the danger does not matter.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Preston?
So the bad news I have for you taxpayers, you know what this is going to do? It's going to cost you a lot of money. Because when you eliminate hunters from keeping the herd down, what's going to happen? The herd is going to grow. And then what's going to happen? Then we're going to have to find a peaceful solution, either tranquilizing them and transporting them, which costs, I don't know, I think it's $3,000 to $5,000 for each deer. Or else, you know what else you're going to do? Hire professional sharpshooters to come in and thin the herd. So that's our future option. So just so the taxpayers know, that's what's coming down the road. It might not be in 2 years, but in a few years, that's what will happen. The herd will grow. They'll start doing more damage, and then they'll say, we need to raise your taxes to find some non-lethal ways to, or deer birth control. That's next too. So good luck with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
There are a variety of ways in which we can manage the herd at some point with the wildlife program and come forward with that. Number two is that although we've had a lot of problems with deer in 2009, we've not seen that since that time. It does take out a few deer, but I think you'd have to be oversight to say that we really culled out the amount of deer we'd have to take out to decrease the herd. The herd seems to do fine. the western part of the state, we have a tremendous amount of wasting, and a lot of the deer are actually dying all over in that particular population because of overgrowth. So sometimes nature will cult out the herd. To the police chief in his studies, he has found that if you actually have to take out the number of deer, you do it professionally. You close the park and you have sharpshooters come in and shoot the deer. They're not nice. They get rid of the known deer they have. The meat is harvested and used in the community. This is a great discussion we've had tonight, but there is a safety concern that Chief has raised, and nobody else wants to step up to it. When I go to the park board, they don't want to join in and help out. When I go to wildlife management, they don't want to participate as well. Comes back to the police department. Do I want my policemen out there taking care of deer, or do I want them out there taking care of crime in the community and things that are happening in the community? I'll put my bet on the people, and I'll step away from the deer at this time. Roll call, please.
Preston?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Garrick?
No.
Pepcorn?
No.
Mahoney?
Aye. Item 44, recommendation for massage therapy establishment program. Eric, you might want to explain what we can do tonight. We can talk about it, but we can take no action.
Right, Mr. Mayor, yeah, there's sort of two items on there, 44 and then 44A is an ordinance. I think the general notion here is to have a presentation by Grant and maybe others, I don't know exactly what it is, to talk about the massage therapy establishment program. There was to be an ordinance for receipt and filing and or first reading, but after looking at it, we thought there might need to be a few revisions to the agreement or to the ordinance itself, and so we just asked for 2 weeks delay on that part of it.
Grant, you're up.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. As Eric's indicated, I'm going to give you the overview tonight of the recommended program. Here's the agenda real quickly. Go through program history, intent, some differences, licensing requirements, some options for you in the future, and opportunity for questions. I'd like to just touch on some program history. This dates back to January of 2020. Letters of interest were sent to the mayor and the former police chief requesting an inspection process to regulate massage businesses that offer services for unlicensed individuals. Following that, in October of 20, City of Fargo administration formed a steering committee that was made up of the health department, police department, the city attorneys, and then the city administration. I was spearheaded to lead this opportunity because they said that they thought it mirrored or was similar to the body art ordinance and requirements we have in the city to inspect tattoo and body art facilities. So there are similarities, not completely apples to apples. Following that, February 22, you can see that the commission directed the city attorneys to work with us to develop an ordinance and associated requirements. At that time, we developed some draft ordinance and requirements, which I presented to the North Dakota Board of Massage Therapy on May 10th. Following that, we had 3 successive meetings for industry input to have complete transparency for our proposed program. You could see that there is quite a gap in the meetings. We did that because we wanted to make sure we capture as many of the therapists that we could, and the intent from them was that they have procedures that they book out 6 to 8 weeks. So we wanted to make sure that we captured their input and gave them opportunity to come and make sure that it was transparent, and they gave us their input. After the final industry meeting on September 15th, we finalized the feedback we got from them in the revisions, sent out the draft ordinance requirements for almost a month in order to get a final draft or a final proposal, which we are now recommending to you for a first reading, as it was noted, in a couple weeks. That will be followed by the second reading. A tentative date to implement this, if it were to be approved, would be the first of the year in 2022. Purpose and intent. As was pointed out earlier tonight, the North Dakota Board of Massage Therapy does not license massage establishments and refers interested parties who wish to start a massage establishment to local jurisdiction for ordinances and guidelines. At this time, currently, the City of Fargo does not have any ordinance, guidelines, or requirements specifically for massage therapy establishments. Implementing local requirements for massage therapy establishments based off administrative code
will provide City of Fargo a legal means to ensure health, safety, and welfare of the community, as well as the ability to address any issues or concerns associated with unlicensed therapists or establishments. After I presented on May 10th to the board, they released this statement that's on their website, acknowledging what I proposed, what I delivered to them, and they cannot, the makeup of their board cannot provide a legal statement either way, but what they did was they said that at this time, they only regulate massage therapists and not massage establishments or businesses. Furthermore, on their website, the Board of Massage Therapy website, right now, if you go there today, you can see and highlight, it does say, if you're starting your own massage business, if you're interested in your own practice, check with your local jurisdiction for new business ordinances and guidelines, which I pointed out we have nothing to go off of. So let's highlight a couple differences between the Board of Massage Therapy and the City of Fargo, what is recommended. The board regulates and licenses individual massage therapists, as Mr. Olson pointed out. The state does have a very robust and stringent licensing program, which we acknowledge that will actually bolster our program if it were to pass. The City of Fargo would license and regulate massage therapy establishments. The board has the ability to take action, only has the ability to take action against licensed individuals, not establishments, and has very limited authority over unlicensed individuals. If we had to propose local requirements and ordinance, we could take action against establishments as well as unlicensed individuals within the City of Fargo. The board conducts randomized annual inspections for 10% of their licensed individual massage therapists within their massage premise. I also wanted to note that they also say there's no prior notice that is mandatory when they conduct their inspections. I know there was some opposition about us being unannounced. It's the same as they have for theirs. There's no prior notice that is mandatory. I just wanted to point that out. We'll conduct annual inspections in all licensed massage establishments. Also, to note, no prior notice is mandatory. I'd like to note that the board can conduct 10% randomized annual inspections for individual therapists operating out of their homes. We are not proposing to conduct inspection in residential homes. Per some information planning, the Land Development Code will provide or does provide oversight for home-based businesses, whether it's massage or any other type of business. There are stipulations for residential homes. The board, if they have any concerns or complaints associated with illicit activity, refers it to local law enforcement. City of Fargo, if we had local ordinance and requirements, will provide a means to address illicit activity. This is also put out from the board. Their president, Heidi, who I've talked to several times, dating back to 2019, and she's responding to some requests regarding illicit activity business practices in the massage business. And just to highlight once again that she notes the board can only take disciplinary action against licensed individuals. Also highlighted the board has limited jurisdiction or authority over unlicensed individuals. Therefore, complaints involving unlicensed practice should be reported directly to local law enforcement. Currently, we do not have any ordinance or regulations, so it doesn't give us the means for either the health or for the PD to follow up on these complaints effectively. License requirements, what we're recommending is all brick and mortar establishments located within the City of Fargo be licensed. Massage establishments who rent commercial space would be individually licensed as establishments. Licensing would not apply to in-home massage businesses or massages conducted directly in a patron's home. Once again, I pointed out that that would be covered or governed by the Land Development Code. All exemptions defined by the state code will apply. So if you're a school for masseuse, you're an instructor or student, those would not be licensed and regulated. Each licensed massage therapy establishment would be assessed an annual fee of $100. I just wanted to point out that currently we license a body art establishment at $250. We also recognize not that every owner or establishment owner has to be or even needs to be a licensed therapist, but they might be licensed and have to pay their state dues So that's why we did debate this and we put it down to $100. That's what we went through and administrative agreed on. So I know there's no motion or action tonight going forward in the first and second reading. These are our options, or your options. A motion to support this program would fill the ordinance and license requirements for the void, or as pointed out earlier by Mr. Coates, the gap for massage therapy establishments. A motion opposed would, the license and inspections would not be conducted for massage establishments located in the city of Fargo. A motion to support would include a proactive licensing policy and annual inspections conducted in massage therapy establishments. Motion opposed would inspections would be conducted by the board only for licensed individual therapists at a 10% annual randomized rate. Motion to support provides legal means for the city of Fargo to address any issues or concerns, including unlicensed individuals or establishments. Opposed, the city of Fargo would be dependent on the limited authority by the board to address unlicensed individuals. Here's the specific steering committee members that make up and worked hard on both the requirements and the ordinance. And at this time, I'll take any questions from the commission.
Commissioners, any questions? So at this point, we took the report. Eric, we make no action? No receive and file?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any action is
Okay.
needed, really. The result of the conversation will be to decide whether to adopt the ordinance or to reject the ordinance or suggest a
Grant, I
different.
want to thank your team. You've got 3 open meetings on this. You've had a lot of discussion. You've taken great time to bring this before to us. So I just, you did hard work and effort on this, and 2 weeks we'll make an action on it. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commission.
Item 45, resolution seeking advisory ballot question on term limits ordinance. Eric Johnson to explain.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. At your July 12th meeting, you may recall that meeting, there were discussion about ward system that came up. There were a number of motions that were passed, and this was one of them that was passed. I put in my transmittal letter, a quote from the actual ordinance itself is directing me to draft a resolution for the residents of the city of Fargo to decide whether to keep the term limits for Fargo City Commissioners, that includes the mayor, or to discontinue those term limits. And so I put together, much like we would if you were going to ask for a citywide ballot for a home rule charter or something like that, same style, but really it's just a resolution that explains the background a little bit and then simply directs the city auditor to put a ballot question together and submit it on the election for the June 14th, 2022 citywide election.
I was understanding when the commissioners asked the question, they were probably asking for a more simplistic resolution that would say, do you want to go ahead with term limits? Are you suggesting a question that would be more elongated?
No, the ballot itself is going to be
A short.
advisory vote. Do you suggest that the term limits ordinance be repealed or not? That's, in a nutshell, that's what it is. The resolution is always a little longer, just like we would with the sales tax ordinance. The actual ballot language itself says, do you approve the sales tax or not? Same type of situation.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman. So it was
Preston.
Commissioner Gehrig that actually made the motion, and I seconded it, I think. I'm thinking the Election and Governance Task Force has this on their docket as well, right? Perhaps it should, because as I understand, they're going to try to complete their work before the deadline to get something on the ballot. I would suggest, and from the court's opinion that just came forward, it seems like one of the issues probably got answered there, but the second piece that actually was the argument came from the mayor in regards to consecutive, or successive, was not fully defined by the opinion. Was it, or was it? Am I misunderstanding that?
Well, I guess the opinion reads for itself, but yeah, I understand. I think I understand your question. Yeah, the court made a determination, seemed like it was based on the definition of what a sort of a term means, a 4-year term.
Right.
And the court's opinion certainly acknowledged the fact that the ordinance talks about what's excessive and what's not. In this particular case, the opinion was that even an interrupted situation like we had with Mayor Wallaker's death and the partial term, that interruption didn't cause it. Obviously, from the result, logic tells you
Okay.
that there's
Okay.
not an interruption in the successive nature of it. But I don't think the court's opinion necessarily directly, sort of spoke to your question precisely.
I guess the reason I'm asking these questions is, would it be worthwhile? And, I guess I'm not fully understanding what you're talking about, whether this would be an up and down kind of vote on the ballot. You would have to have some language so that people would understand what we're talking about, right?
Right, and I think excuse me, just one moment, the ballot question would read something like item 1 under the resolution itself, that a question be placed before the City of Fargo electorate seeking an advisory vote as to whether the city's term limits ordinance, section 20106, should remain in place or should it be repealed.
Okay.
So you're simply point blank asking, should it remain in place or should it be repealed?
So the actual language of the current ordinance would not be on the ballot. Is that what you're saying?
Generally ballots aren't that wordy. They do assume that the voter, there'll be a little bit of a description typically as part of the ballot as to what it talks about, but probably wouldn't contain the
I
entire
guess
language.
what I would suggest here is that this goes to the task force to have a more in-depth discussion about what would be clear on the ballot and whether it should be advisory or not. Maybe it shouldn't be advisory. Maybe it should be a full-fledged kind of initiative or a ballot question that would say yes, no, and that it's not advisory. So I'm wondering if that might be, and Commissioner Gary, you were the one that made this motion originally.
Yeah, by putting this on the ballot, if people vote against it, if let's say they vote to get rid of term limits, there would not be term limits. So it's not just like they're saying what they would prefer.
What I hear the city attorney saying is it's advisory, so the city commission could decide differently.
I think your motion was pretty clear. You were looking for an advisory type vote at the time.
Well,
Not that you can't change your mind now. I'm
I
not
mean,
saying you can't, but.
Here's what I was looking for. The city of Fargo has had term limits for 30 years or so. And we've never asked the people of Fargo if they want term limits. I think they should get a say. And the best say is to ask them at election time if they want them or not. Obviously, there's ups and downs to it. There's some strife that just happened. Maybe someone wants to serve a longer term or whatever. There were reasons why it was put in 30 years ago. You may or may not agree or disagree with those, why they were. But at some point, we should ask the people of Fargo how they want to be governed. And do they want commissioners to serve 12 years and out? Or do they want them to serve as long as they're elected in? I simply think that it's past due for us to ask this question. And we always ask about getting input, and we talk about task force and things like that, and let's get the idea of what the people want. Well, let's just ask them. It doesn't cost us anything. So my motion would be to put language on the ballot to have an up or down vote on if the people of Fargo want term limits for commissioners or not.
So I think what you've changed is at first it was advisory, now you're just saying, let's put it on the ballot. I think that that would be helpful because our present ordinance, Eric interpreted 3 different ways, Judge interpreted a different way. So there's ambiguity in the present ordinance we have. So to put that up and down to vote on would be different than just term limits. And I would concur it'd be simplify our lives if you had it, not an advisory vote, but if you want term limits or not, it's satisfactory to the public to understand that, and they could weigh in on their opinion.
And that's my motion, by the way, so I'd like a second if we're going to continue the conversation.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Further discussion?
Excuse me, could you restate the motion, please?
The motion would be to put language on the ballot for the voters to give an up or down vote on if they want term limits or not.
Mr. Strand.
Thank you. I'm going to advance an extension of Commissioner Preston's argument that we have just established and created a task force to answer these questions for us. And you know, we just had a lawsuit that addressed and noted for us the vagueness of our current ordinance. We also know historically the spirit and intent of the ordinance that's in place, except there are some issues that aren't clear. Succession terms, filling terms. The only place this should go is to our citizen task force to talk this through, to talk through all the various nuances of term limits. Term limits is more than term limits. I mean, you just don't vote up or down term limits. What's that mean? Whose term limits? How long? If somebody votes up, yes, what does that mean? I mean, we have to have more than that. So I'm all for, at that point, if our task force suggests an advisory vote, fine. Or if our task force suggests our commission consider putting it on the ballot, fine. But let's cross that bridge in a proper time.
Mr. Gary.
We have a current ordinance, so the ordinance is what would be debated and voted on. So we could put something on the ballot reading something like, currently the city commission has term limits. You can serve 3 successive terms. Do you want to continue this? Yes or no? I mean, that's what it would be. What the task force should focus on is cleaning up the current language so that if it does continue, if term limits do continue, the task force is ready to say, okay, here's the new language that makes more sense than us getting sued. You know what I mean? So the task force should have nothing to do with if we should have limits or not. The task force should be focused on cleaning up the language of our current ordinance that is obviously a little bit broken. But I would rather have the people of Fargo who've had this in their laps for 30 years tell us if they actually want them, instead of a committee made up of 10 people or whatever it is, speaking for 125,000 people. Let's just have them vote. I mean, I'm with you, John. Let's hear from the community. And there's no wrong answer here. We're just asking them what they want. I could find no better way to find out how the community wants to actually move forward than to actually ask them. And we have never asked them, and it's been 30 years, and that's far too long.
Commissioner Preston.
So, Eric, can you give a little more guidance here? If there is a ballot question, yes or no, that we should have term limits, is it usual that the actual language then gets developed in more of the administrative level or on the commission level? I think what Commissioner Gehrig is saying is the task force would change that language, and that's what would be then approved or not approved at a public level.
I think what Commissioner Gehrig was saying is probably a pretty good synopsis, well, at least the approach he's going to use. I mean, what he's saying is if you have, rather than an advisory vote, you literally empower the voters to reject our current ordinance as is drafted, 20106, then it gets rejected. And I think you infer from that, is that right? You infer from that they don't want term limits of any type. They're rejecting this specific ordinance, but I think the implication is that they don't want term limits, period. On the other hand, if they were to not repeal 20106, there's an acknowledgement that many people might agree with that it needs to be cleaned up a little bit too. And so that would be the job of the task force to look at what that might be. And, you know, that doesn't put every question in front of the voters, only the repeal question is in front of the voters, but
Makes sense.
you might get some feedback as part of the process too, anecdotal feedback perhaps.
Makes sense.
We didn't get sued, by the way, either. We initiated the lawsuit.
Any other discussion?
Mayor,
Mr. Strand.
I move that we refer this topic to our governance and election task force to study and report back to us any recommendations they'd come up with.
Is there a second?
Well, there's already a motion, so is he amending?
I can refer it.
And that takes precedence.
You
over
just
that?
looked up Robert's rules, Tony, so.
I'm kidding. All right.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry. Can you restate the motion?
I move that we refer this topic to the Governance and Election Task Force to study, research, and report back to us any recommendations they would have.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Hearing no second, we go back to the original motion.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just say, I think that's already happening because it's on the list of what they're supposed to be looking at. So we're talking about putting the question on the ballot, but the task force would still look at the content.
Mr. Strand.
Why would we do that? Why would we put the cart before the horse?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Preston.
I think it's because we need public input on whether we have term limits or not. Whether the task force agrees with that or not, I think it needs to be on the ballot.
Mr. Garrett.
Yeah, and it is two lines. You're exactly right. So if they vote to keep them in place, let's be ready to have the proper changes to put in place or to make the changes beforehand and say, okay, we recognize that there are some flaws in our current system. Let's change the language, make it better, and then the voters can vote on that language. So that we're not precluding that board or that task force at looking at the ordinance itself. It's not wasted energy.
Mr. Strand.
So if we're voting to put something on a ballot, we're deciding something. Why would we, so then we're creating a task force, but just so you know, we're putting this on the ballot before you even start discussing it, before you even start looking at it. We've already decided this topic's going on the ballot. Now, I'll say one more thing. The July 12th meeting, we had several points discussed that night. The third vote we took that night was to create the task force. After we talked about wards, which we since voted down, the notion of it, then this, and then we created the task force. I think that was a natural progression of our thinking processes. Let's look at all of these topics. Let's not paint anybody into a corner and presume what they're obligated to decide. Let's let them discuss and research and report back in a timely fashion.
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Mr. Preston.
One more comment, then I'll be done. There were two motions that were passed. One was on this particular topic, and then the other one was on the task force. The task force will still have an important role in this, in looking at the content of the ordinance and determining whether the court's opinion and all of the arguments inside that opinion are carefully vetted out and answered with the language. So I don't see that this is excluding the task force from the discussion.
Mr. Strand.
So how many terms? How long are the terms? Are they successive or are they not successive? Can you fill a term? What are the answers to these questions? We don't even know. But we're going to decide to put it to a vote with the ambiguity that's implicit in that. We're creating more vagueness than what we already have.
Mr. Preston.
Those are the questions that the task force would answer.
Absolutely. Let's let them answer it.
And the only question that they wouldn't answer is whether it goes on the ballot or not.
What if they tell us they don't want it on the ballot?
Yeah, then we'd consider it, I guess.
I think Commissioner Strand, you make a good point that we have to refer that to that area. Are we ready for doing something different tonight? So, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Mayor, please remind us of the vote, the motion.
Diana, what's the motion, please?
Motion is to put the language on the ballot to have up or down vote for term limits. And the motion by Garrick, seconded by Preston.
Roll call vote.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
No.
Mahoney?
Aye. Last item is applications of property tax exemptions for improvements made by buildings. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Second.
Second, roll call vote.
Pepcorn?
Aye.
Strand?
Yes.
Garrick?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
Mahoney?
Yes, aye. Last thing we'd like to do is show you a picture of the promotions. I think you'll recognize many of the officers that have been promoted. Some have been with us for 19 years, and some of the sergeants have been with us from anywhere from 4 to 10 years. I would just like to give them a round of applause and recognize people who have put their time in ours. Are there any other announcements or issues? Commissioner Strand?
Well, you know how it is. We got some birthdays coming up. Tomorrow, Commissioner Pepcorn's birthday. We all wish you the very best.
Thank you, John. And John, if that debate would have gone on another 4 hours and
We'd be singing right now.
it would be my birthday, so I was doing the math.
I won't belabor this, but Commissioner Pepcorn, and then in about a week, Chief Zabolski's, and then Greg Schilderberger. So we'll wish you all the very best.
Thank you. Motion to adjourn?
So move.
Is it second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.